Hello there. This season, we're talking about some of my favorite books. And the first one on the list is 101 Essays That Will Change the Way You Think by Brianna Wiest. This is a collection of skillfully blended essays that I always reach for when I need some comfort. It's kind of like a friend talking to you and giving you wise advice that somehow comforts you, even if you already knew that before, which, let's admit it, all of us sometimes need to take our own advice. So this book is kind of that for me. A reminder, but in a best way. So I've chosen some of my favorite essays from the book. As the title says, there are 101 of them, so that's a lot. I've chosen my five or six favorite ones. So the first one is called 102 Ways Not to Let Irrational Thoughts Ruin Your Life. In this essay, Wiest provides practical strategies for managing irrational thoughts, which often arise from anxiety or fear or stress. And irrational thoughts can sometimes snowball into these mental and emotional distress, causing us to misinterpret situations and catastrophize. And she emphasizes the importance of grounding oneself in reality, focusing on facts over feelings, and learning to observe thoughts without identifying with them. This is a practice in many kinds of therapy, mainly the cognitive behavioral therapy or CBT, as well as meditation techniques or practices. For example, by questioning whether our fears and anxieties are true, if they are based on reality, we can immediately prove them wrong most of the time. And that by itself gets rid of them. I love how she emphasizes that just because we think something, it doesn't mean it is true. Our minds are weird, complicated things, and sometimes it's best not to trust our every thought. Irrational thoughts plague people in in our daily lives, and this essay serves as a user-friendly guide for anyone who feels overwhelmed by the constant noise that is our inner critic. Essay number 2 is called The Inherent Zen of Creativity. This one really got me thinking about how creativity isn't just about making something. It's about being in tune with the present moment. She ties creativity to Zen principles, and it makes so much sense when you think about it. She talks about how true creativity happens when you stop forcing it and just let it flow. Have you ever noticed that your best ideas come when you're not thinking so hard? Like when you're taking a shower or taking a walk. And she argues that when we're fully present, creativity naturally emerges because our mind is relaxed. The essay is a reminder to stop obsessing over whether something we're creating is good enough and to just enjoy the process. I found this idea to be really freeing, especially in a world where productivity and results are so emphasized. For anyone who feels creatively blocked, this essay is like a breath of fresh air. It is less about doing and more about being. I find it especially powerful because it reframes creativity as something available to everyone and not just those who identify as artists or writers. And we can all tap into creativity in different ways in our daily lives, whether it is problem solving at work or thinking of new ideas for our lives. Essay number 3 is called Do You Argue Intelligently? From Defensiveness to Rebuttal: The 7 Main Ways People Fight. This essay totally opened my eyes to how we argue, or rather, to how we should argue. Weiss talks about how people tend to fight in 7 different ways, from defensiveness to outright aggression. And most of us don't argue to understand. We argue to protect our ego or to prove a point. What stuck with me the most is how she encourages us to approach arguments with curiosity. And instead of getting defensive and trying to win, we should be more interested in understanding where the other person is coming from. It sounds simple, but it is so hard in the heat of the moment when you're full of emotions. We get wrapped up in being right and we forget that arguing is an opportunity to connect and learn. I think this essay is so relevant in the world we live in today, where we have conflicts and disagreements online and in real life, and often these get heated very quickly. And her advice to argue intelligently with empathy and curiosity could change how we handle conflict, making it less about who is right and more about finding a common ground or solving a problem or gaining clarity. The next essay is called The 7 Zen Principles and How to Apply Them in Modern Life. I loved this essay and I'm just going to read you from it. So the 7 Zen principles, as she calls them, are: number 1, your experience is constructed by your mind. Number 2, your concept of self is an illusion and a construct as well. So she's saying who you are is an essence. It's an energy, and that's it. That's why it's never one thing for too long or any given context. That's why it's so difficult to understand yourself. You're more than the limiting definitions and titles, repetitive habits and jobs and roles you provide. However, most of us only understand ourselves as we imagine other people see us: writer, teacher, mom, student, basketball player, good person, etc. Most of our issues surround trying to manipulate the ego, trying to inflate or immortalize the self, trying to shift and change how we think other people see us, therefore, how we believe we exist in reality, and so how we should see ourselves. Mastering the idea of self is knowing that you can play out the illusion of who you are and what you do while not being so lost in that it controls you. And number 3, You need not believe in anything. You only need to follow what feels true in the moment. She says that, and this is from the book, the trouble with adhering to a certain set belief system without question is that when you value or consider the voices that were implanted in you by someone else's dogma or teaching, you start trusting that more than you trust yourself. And you'll end up either very lost or very confused, battling between what you think is right and what you feel is true. If you aren't living life by what you know to be true, you aren't following your highest good. Allow yourself the ability to expand and grow by thinking and feeling beyond what your current dogma allows. And number 4, the ultimate path to happiness is non-attachment. And before you get all caught up in the possibility of not caring about the outcome of your life, understand that non-attachment is much more and yet much simpler than not caring how things turn out. It's about the simple understanding that all things serve you. The bad things teach you and show you how to heal, to open even farther the good things. It cannot be put much simpler than that. Number 5, she says, doing is not as important as simply being. This is about how you're not what you do, you just simply are. And aside from a meditation practice, giving yourself the time to relax, recuperate, and reflect is of the utmost importance. And number 6, you can be an objective observer of your mind and your life. And number 7 is your natural state is oneness. The reality we all return to eventually is that everything is one. This is the basis of enlightenment. It is in the illusion of separateness that we suffer. It is playing out the ideas of individualism that we learn. It is to our natural state, unification, that we eventually return. The next essay that I liked is called How We Lose Our Minds to Other People's Gods. And I liked the title. And she talks about in this essay, how we sometimes blindly follow the beliefs and values of others, whether it is family or society or religion, without questioning if they truly align with who we are. It's about how we give away our mental and emotional power when we let other people's gods, quote unquote, as in values, dictate our lives. And she's not saying we should reject everything we've been taught, but rather that we should take the time to question and understand why we believe what we believe, and if those values are truly ours or where they come from, where we inherited them from. It's a tough question because a lot of our ideas come from other people, and we can't live authentic lives if we're constantly trying to fit into a mold that somebody else created for us. And it's an empowering essay because it encourages us to take back control of our own mind and beliefs. She's basically saying that we can and should define our own quote unquote God or values rather than living according to someone else's version of what is right. The next essay that I liked is called How to Raise a Generation of Kids Who Don't Have a Problem with Anxiety. In this essay, she turns her attention to the next generation, offering insights on how we raise children who are emotionally resilient and mentally healthy. She emphasizes the importance of teaching children emotional intelligence from an early age, helping them develop coping mechanisms and creating environments that encourage open and true emotional expression. Her advice is to let children experience discomfort and to have them learn how to handle it, and instead of shielding them from every challenge or disappointment. It's about raising children who are okay with not being perfect and who don't crumble under a weight of expectations. As someone that is deeply interested in education and mental health, I find this essay to be particularly relevant. Anxiety amongst young people is on the rise, and much of it is traced to societal pressures, especially for young men, and a lack of emotional support systems, especially in the world where we are living a lot online and less so in actual real life. And a lot of young children, especially young boys and men, have less emotional support. And she offers practical advice for raising a generation that values emotional well-being as much as some external measures of success. And I think it was an important essay. So those are the essays that resonated with me the most. And soon you'll hear back from me with another book that I liked.